Welcome to the Five Petal Podcast. I'm your host, Bridgid Berkano, a mystic home, hearth, and parenting coach, here to help you come home to yourself through the 5 petals of the well woman's rose. Through interviews and reflections, we explore what it means to care for your whole self, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and relationally, so you can live with more clarity, self-trust, and rooted connection. Let's dive in. Hi, I'm here with Cassidy Moss, and her home is so beautiful. I just need to do a little 360 so you can see how cute it is. Look at that beautiful wall of plants. And then we're going to get a tighter shot.
I know, I can't believe I've kept the plants alive through the 2 pregnancies. They get watered like once a month.
Yeah, very, very Earth Mama energy, totally on brand. Perfect. Babies up with Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we might have maybe half an hour or so.
Half an hour to talk about plants.
That's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'm going to cut in right now to me sharing your bio.
Okay.
Cassidy is a clinical herbalist and founder of Moss Herbalism, where she offers personalized consultations grounded in traditional knowledge, modern science, and years of hands-on experience. Her path into herbal medicine began in childhood, learning from her Brazilian mother's love of plants, and evolved into a lifelong dedication to holistic, plant-based health. After moving to the Pacific Northwest in 2011, Cassidy immersed herself in organic farming and permaculture on Whidbey Island, deepening her understanding of plant ecology and sustainable herbal cultivation. She later spent 8 years auditing medical records at a brain injury law firm, gaining a unique perspective on the limitations of conventional healthcare. And during that time, she began studying herbalism seriously, blending formal education with real-world application. Cassidy went on to manage a busy naturopathic clinic in Seattle while completing her clinical herbalist training. Working closely with naturopathic doctors expanded her knowledge of integrative care and the therapeutic use of botanicals. At Moss Herbalism, she helps clients create holistic wellness plans that strengthen the body's natural systems and support long-term health. Her work focuses on sustainable, evidence-informed strategies that use medicinal herbs and lifestyle shifts to improve quality of life and reconnect people with their well-being. Okay, I shared your bio.
Yeah, so I'm a clinical herbalist, and that's what I love to do. Talk about plants all day long.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for inviting me over to do this podcast. I invited myself, actually.
I wanted you to come.
So, my brand is all about roses, and my coaching is based on the 5 petals of the well woman's rose. I was hoping that maybe you could give us a little more meat on the bones of the plant medicine.
Yeah. So my favorite rose to work with around here, because we're in the Pacific Northwest, is the Nuka rose, and they're so beautiful. They're the pink wild roses. You see them a lot by the ocean is where I find them often. And all roses are, beautiful medicine, and especially I think for women, because we have this incredible dynamic of inviting beautiful flowers, gentle, delicate petals. And then also, roses are a thorn-bearing plant. They have thorns. And so they are setting boundaries inherently. And so we need that energy, that perfect energy where we are not allowing ourselves to get walked all over, but we're also not losing our beauty and gentleness and compassion. And roses are perfect for that, right? So we can still be beautiful and we can still give the world our gifts, but we're not going to, be taken down easily, right? Like rose bushes are well established and have this really beautiful system of keeping boundaries. And so, just like in a clinical setting, roses are cooling. So a lot of the times, it's a really wonderful one for the summer. We can cool things down. We can use them for burns on the skin. It's really a nice one.
And how would you process the rose to use it for the skin?
Dried petal tea is lovely. A wound wash like that would be really nice. You could do an aloe vera situation where you infuse that somehow with some aloe vera and do that for a burn would be really nice. Or just, a rose infused oil is lovely. I do find that the smell that we think of rose scent, it's a little bit different than if you use real roses. So that scent is often very artificial. And so I'd love, everybody to try some real rose infused, hydrosol or oil. And it does have it has a rose smell, but it's just not that kind of false scented,
like pungent.
Yes, it's not as strong. And then, energetically, I'm using it often when I need to have heart healing medicine, super, super connected to the heart. We have this cultural association, roses, hearts, pink and red, all of these are together, with the heart and our love emotions. And so when I am needing a little bit of protection around my heart, healing for my heart, rose is one that I'm going to go for. And especially when it's tender and inflamed, right? So we can think about the energetic states as, similar to the physical states. If I have something red, and tender and inflamed, cooling that down gently is kind of what I would do on a skin condition, but also energetically. I can cool down some of those emotions that might be feeling really intense. It's not so hard to see some of the patterns and the connections between energetic and, physical states. And so that's a lot of the time where I'm working with rose. And a lot of these flowering, thorn-bearing plants are worked with in the same way. So hawthorn is another one a lot of people work with for a cardiac, actually does, help to strengthen and nourish the heart muscles, but then also is a protective thorn-bearing plant that is, going to bring some heart compassion. And these are all in the rose family too. So, we see that with a lot of the rose family. Alice is living.
Hi, Alice. So sweet. Great. Rose and hawthorn for the cooling energetics and also being boundaried in our love.
Yeah.
That's such important medicine for matriarchs. Yeah, I know we were just spilling the tea, having a chat, which we won't repeat, but I think that's just really, really important medicine for mothers now. I mean, there's always been conflict and issues that mothers are always, navigating for their communities. But yeah, just a good reminder that there are these allies to help us.
Yes, and the more that we can be clear, I love Brene Brown, and she, so she says clear is kind, and the more that we are clear about our boundaries, the kinder we are to everybody around us, and we're, boundaries don't have to be this kind of mean, no, I don't want you thing. And I think Rose is a perfect example of this. I do want friendships and I want connections and I want community. And this is the way that it's going to work, for us. And so by setting those boundaries ahead of time and being really clear with everybody around you, you're able to invite in just exactly what you need. And, sometimes I think some of us can get too much of our thorns up, right?
Sure.
And, and it keeps people from connecting with us. But having some clear boundaries, I think, is a really good practice all of us can do with grace and would serve us well, just being clear about who we are and what we want.
Because guess what? You don't have to get all into the thorns to smell the rose.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The roses are still available. If you try to cut the roses down, then you get, then you get the thorns. They're good ones for women's medicine for sure. And emotional heart wound healing and stuff. That's some deep work they're doing there. Yeah. So we want to talk about some other mental health herbs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a lot of the work that is really near and dear to my heart is working with people's mental health states and conditions with kind of holistic strategies. And so I think a lot of us have been through, early 2000s and kind of the real uprise of a lot of pharmaceuticals for mental health.
Right.
And, there's a time and a place. They can save people's life. They can pull people out of a really bad state. But I think a lot of folks don't feel like this is the long-term solution for me. And I want to feel like myself still. And so these are kind of some of the folks that I see coming to me asking for strategies to handle, mental health states that can come from maybe, innate chemical imbalances, but also just a lot of life events that are, being navigated.
Process. And then one more thing that I love about herbal medicine is it has less unwanted side effects, it seems.
Yes, and there's definitely side effects, but like they're not as dramatic. We don't have the dependency issues, right? If you get off of, I was really exploring this quite a bit this week, actually, was pharmaceuticals are often a shortcut. They're a completed molecule, and they're going in there, and once your body has been receiving this for a while, it says, well, I don't need to make this myself anymore. We're receiving it already. Versus herbs are nourishing the whole system and strengthening the system. And often we're providing some building blocks for you to still have to make these conversions on, hormones and things like that. But just strengthening the system and providing your body with more of what it needs to make that instead of giving it the already done kind of molecule. And so then when we get off of herbs, the system is just strengthened, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can stop taking those herbs and your body isn't freaking out saying, oh no, we forgot how to make that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just has strengthened the system and your body can still do this work. And so I think a really simple one that has not a lot of side effects for almost anybody, it's well received in most bodies, is one of my very favorites, and which is holy basil or Tulsi. And it just is so well received by so many different people that I think it's a great, just all around, nervine, mood boosting, nourishing herb that is just going to make it just takes the weight of the world off a little bit, is kind of my feeling about Tulsi. It just, everything isn't quite as bad as it seemed, maybe. And like you can be in these places where you're just, the finances are a lot and my relationship with this person is a lot and I've got to do this work and the kids in the house are overbearing me and it just feels so heavy. And then we can introduce like Tulsi tea, so gentle, daily, and it just doesn't feel quite so bad. It just takes all of it and it all feels like maybe it'll be all right. It's just one where I'm like, if I could just get Tulsi around the world, like that would be the one I would probably go for if I could just get the world high on Tulsi. Wow. Yeah, I'm in the influence of Tulsi.
I'll try and get it in my garden.
Yeah. Tulsi's wonderful. Tulsi tincture is a lovely way, or Tulsi tea. I like how it tastes.
There's a nice Tulsi rose tea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just buy off the shelf.
Sounds wonderful. Tulsi rose in the morning. Every day.
I think that's like traditional medicinals.
They're good. I love those guys. Yeah, Tulsi is really wonderful, and the benefit of Tulsi is we don't have a lot of side effects with pharmaceuticals. So maybe you are still working with pharmaceuticals, and that's totally fine. And there's not going to be a lot of contraindications for that. And we're safe for working with kids. It's just going to be across the board a great gentle ally. Another one that so many people know for mental health is St. John's wort. And in the 70s and 80s, they started working with St. John's wort for depression. Mm-hmm. And it's probably like the most well-known mental health herb. And the tricky part about St. John's wort is that it does have medication contraindications.
Which means
you shouldn't use it with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Almost 50% of all pharmaceuticals actually contraindicate with St. John's wort, which is a lot. Like, that's a lot of all the drugs available. And this was a moment when I was doing my clinical training that really, it was like a clicking point for me, which is it has this contraindication effect because it works in the liver in the same pathway that those pharmaceuticals go through. And so when we take St. John's wort, it speeds up our metabolization of those drugs, and we're not getting what we thought we wanted to get. So we weren't getting the same dose that we expected to receive because it's actually helping and aiding the liver. And so I started looking at that, and it was such an aha moment because, okay, this herb helps the liver, supports the liver, and also makes us feel happier. What is happening there, right? And then I'm like, oh, well, if people's livers are not working well and they're not processing out the waste, we feel crappy. Yeah. We literally feel crappy because we have crap in us. You know?
Well, in Chinese medicine, where I started learning about herbs, is the liver holds anger.
Yes.
And which, also resentment, bitterness, like all those things. So it makes
all the
sense.
Things that kind of feel, if you're holding on to a lot of it, like depression.
It'll stifle your life force. And that's why with anger release, like when people really do a good somatic anger release, they feel so much more alive.
Yeah.
Because holding on to anger, it will depress you.
You're holding in so much. And so, it's a tricky one because it does contraindicate so much. But the lesson from St. John's wort that I learned, and St. John's wort is this flower that blooms right in this solstice in the summer. So it's, St. John's Day is solstice. And so it was often used to be called solstice wort.
That's what I'll come.
Yes. Okay. And then it has these sunny yellow flowers, right? And so it's like bringing all this sun. It's the height of summer. And it's for depression. And so, doctrine of signatures was this old idea that the plants would look like what they healed, which is an old idea that a lot of it doesn't apply, but it's a lovely thing to see every once in a while, to be like, oh, the sunny beautiful flowers that bring me my sun and my light.
It's so cool too, because it when you pinch it, it looks like blood is dripping out of it.
That's how you know it's good. It's got the Hyperion.
And then what else? Do you know Natasha Clark?
I don't think so.
Okay, she's an herbalist. She had the Herb Hunter show.
Okay.
But she told me that if you take a leaf and you hold it to the sky, you can see the pinpoints.
Yeah.
Like light
coming through. Yeah. Yeah, and like the Latin is Hypericum perforatum, so perforated leaves. So the pinpoints in them,
Yeah.
That's how I always, because there's a couple lookalikes, and I'm like, hold them up.
Yeah, herb identification.
Yeah.
Really important. Make sure you know
you get the right one.
Yeah.
But St. John's wort is also really nourishing to the nervous system, and if you can get that bright red oil, super repairing to the nerves. And then another lovely thing I learned from Cammie McBride, and she's really into oils, and so she's like always talking about how the nerves are right under the skin. And so when we are really, really dry, our nerves are dried out and fried out, and we feel that, right? Like, moms feel
crinkly.
Yeah, like I'm just on the end.
Like, don't breathe on me.
But then if we can nourish all the nerves with, oil, or something like St. John's wort oil would be even more beautiful, then it really does bring you back in the body. You're soothed.
Yeah.
You're really nourished. And
so question, if somebody is on, pharmaceuticals that they just don't want to mess with, do you think like an oil?
No, an oil often is not going to be absorbed at any kind of rate that we're going to have to worry about. There's a few constituents that will come through the oil and get to a point where we're worrying about that internally. Not often that I am concerned about topicals. And so an oil would be a lovely way for somebody to work with that. Or we just look at another liver support herb that's not going to contraindicate. Something like milk thistle would be really lovely.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's other options
Mm-hmm.
that we can do. Don't let being on pharmaceuticals scare you away from herbalism. I feel like if there's any work I'm doing in the world, I'm like, we can do both.
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to talk about your very affordable offer.
Yes, I have options for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So we will definitely come back to that because I tried it and it's great.
I'm so glad you like it.
Yeah, I do. Okay. Were there any other herbs for mental health that you really wanted to talk about? We got rose, Tulsi,
St. Wort. You know, I think I owe it to ashwagandha to give it some credit here because, you know, we have depression states. Tulsi can help us feel a lot of sense of peace. But then in 2020, I think a lot of people were having a hard time. It was a pretty stressful time, and I was having horrible panic attacks. And I have a long history of depression that I've really overcome and worked with holistic strategies and stuff and gotten to a place where I'm really happy with it. But anxiety was new for me. And it was like debilitating anxiety. I was telling myself all of these stories about what other people thought about me and that I wasn't good enough, and really terrible things were happening in my brain, and it wasn't true or kind, and it was just this really terrible cycle I found myself in. And was recommended pharmaceuticals. It didn't feel like the choice I wanted to make at the time. And I started taking ashwagandha. And it was the answer for me. It really, really did. It just felt this, it's not immediate, and you really do have to work with it and in consistent relationship. But you just find the deep peace, and the stories in my head and the spinning of it all decreased and decreased, and I just was able to ground myself and find reality and the truth a lot more. And, you know, if the people were to say things, I wasn't worried about it, you know, maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but it wasn't in my head all the time. I was free from it, and it was an incredible result from an herb that I just personally want to advocate, you know, for so many people that are feeling that stress and anxiety could really benefit from some ashwagandha. Now, it's one that we have to work with a little bit more carefully, and it's not for everybody. But you know, it's a great option for giving some peace to a spinning mind, and it was incredible for me, and it's still one that I come back to. I try to work with no longer than a couple months at a time, but it's just it's a good old friend at this point.
Yeah. Well, and I see it in a lot of different places. It's like
Works.
Yeah, it's getting really popular. Why would someone want to be cautious of this?
I feel like it's too deep to explain, you know, all of the different reasons. So there are some maybe drug interactions with that one. It's maybe not one I would always use in pregnancy or breastfeeding. And so there's just some people that we would, and just some states too, energetically, that I wouldn't put it in for. Yeah. So that is something I kind of assess for when I make recommendations.
Okay. So
yes. Yeah.
There we go. To your offer on your website for people who are curious about this. They want to get into herbs. They want a recommendation, but you don't feel confident in giving a recommendation without assessing their medical.
So I do full clinical consults, and those are a little bit, you know, that is an hour with me, and it's priced accordingly. But then I get a lot of people who just need a quick advice, you know, and so I would get a lot of messages all the time just saying what's a good herb for this or that. And I want to help as many people as I can. I really do. And I want to be able to answer that. But if I'm going to be responsible as an herbalist, I have to make sure that I am checking for allergies, I'm checking for medications, you know, I'm checking for pregnancy and breastfeeding. I'm also kind of making sure that it's a good fit for the person I'm, you know, recommending it for. And so what I started doing is it's $25. You fill out a questionnaire, and I give you just a formula. And so that isn't a full consult. And so I do, if we have a lot of stuff going on, I love talking to somebody and really being able to do the full consult. But the quick recommendation is an easy way to get safe herbal advice that's tailored to you, without having to invest too much.
Yeah, I love that because it's really like it's the people's medicine.
And I feel that, and I really do share a lot of. I share as much as I can, for free. But
yeah, no, I love that. You take it seriously and you're responsible.
I can't be going out here giving advice willy-nilly and feel like I'm being a responsible herbalist. And so I just was like, how could I do this in a way that's accessible still? So that's why I started doing that. I call them quick recommendations.
Yeah, that's great.
It's mossherbalism.com.
Yes, that's right. Moss Herbalism.
Moss Herbalism.
Yes, Alice. You're the luckiest kitty.
Alice was really excited to be in this.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Thinking. Oh.
What are the 5?
Oh, do you have any questions for me?
I want to hear about the 5 petals. Will you just tell me about the 5, what they are?
Yes. Okay. I've been studying spiritual integration, emotional integration, somatic work, and shamanic journeying, and all sorts of things. I have many teachers, and I pick and pull, and I've really come up with my own style. So
I love that.
Yeah, hey, I'm just here doing.
Well, did I tell you? So my mom made me go to like 10 different churches, and she said, I want you to figure out what your own beliefs are based on this. So I'm so into this.
That's so cool.
I love that you've pulled the things that you love and resonate with.
Neat.
Created your own.
Yeah. And it's also like we were talking about being, Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius rising.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the birth sign.
Moon.
Oh, Pisces sun.
Yes.
Scorpio moon. What's your rising?
Taurus.
Okay.
Yes.
Opposite.
Yes.
That's so funny. Oh,
we vibe. Yes.
We vibe. Right. Well, what I heard about like the Sagittarius energy and like your rising sign is how you interact with the world, right? Yeah. And the Sagittarius sees like the big picture from like a bird's eye. So that's definitely on point for me. Like like human healing doesn't belong to a certain culture or religion or science.
It's for the people, it's for everyone. Like, and the plants aren't here, for one group, or they don't care.
Right. And of course, like I do care about like appropriation, which I know you're down with that too. Just
I try to be as conscious as I can.
Exactly. Like there are cultures who have built these modalities and
systems of medicine
and have nurtured these plants in their indigenous environment. So of course be respectful and learn from them. Absolutely. However, for me, as a broken path healer, meaning it wasn't handed to me by my personal elders. We came here.
I like that term.
Yeah, broken path.
Yeah.
Like my family came to America under duress and assimilated and struggled and survived. And so here I am picking it back up because I'm
doing our best.
Yeah, doing our best. Finding what feels right. And I have the privilege now of thinking about these deeper things.
Because we're not surviving.
Well, kind of.
We need to tell our brains that we're not under survival.
Yeah, like we're okay.
We're okay.
I'm okay. Yeah, right. It's like, but I was just working with that this morning, like just feeling the all of that.
Yeah.
The pain of the generations.
Yes.
But then also reaching back. I do ancestral work and reaching back to the well ones who
were
in connection with all their healing modalities and the maternal medicine and the matrilineal lines and everything and the well culture. So anyways, I need to name my work something.
Yes.
And the rose came to me, and I was thinking, okay, rose. The rose has got 5 petals, and I was contemplating that. And I realized that the areas that I focus on for healing and what I like to learn about is there are 5 of them. There's physical healing. So thank you for contributing to that with the herbalism. Mental, there's, learning and mindset, but also keeping your mind in check.
Yeah.
It doesn't take over with like overaction. Emotional.
Yeah.
Emotions can be so physical as well. So they're all really interwoven and
Connected,
connected.
yes.
Yeah. And spiritual, those things that we can't see and can't necessarily measure yet. It takes faith and belief and exploration and just those other senses. And then also relational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How are we in our community? Who are the people around us, and how are we working with them?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that makes a well woman, like having connection with all of these petals.
Yeah. 100%. I love this breakdown in the system that you've named here. And like for so long, and so many moms, I feel like the community is the part of this. So the relationship part is we're really struggling with, and we're put in this world where we kind of are supposed to be doing it all alone, we think, and I spent many years as a lone wolf kind of single mom, trying to overcome and find wellness, and when all of the other parts are functioning, it doesn't matter because you don't have this crucial piece as well. And so you can avoid all the gluten you want, but if your relationships aren't in check,
right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. There's and what's your mindset about relationships? And what's
do you think, oh, people don't like me, or I'm unapproachable, or I don't make friends? We have to break down all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So do you consider yourself a life coach?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've gone through years of life coaching that have changed my life. Like finding a good life coach is worth all of it,
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like you can learn and you can implement from your own idea of what you need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a relationship.
Yeah. It's feedback
and feedback.
Accountability, I think for me was a really big one that I got out of life coaching, and like another perspective, on things, a regular check-in, somebody on your side, on your team, but also another perspective, which I think, especially if you're in an anxious state where not everything in your brain is maybe true.
Right.
Having the feedback from somebody else is really important.
Yeah. And there's so many different personalities of life coach, and
you got to find your right. Yes.
Right. Well, it seems like people, like in a life coach, you just kind of want to find somebody who has what you want, and then they'll they'll speak it to you.
Yeah. They'll channel.
Yeah. And that individualized hand holding, like,
it's so important.
Yeah.
If everybody could just have somebody on their team,
Yeah, well, and it's mentorship, and our communities are so broken. And a lot of the times it seems like the person who is seeking healing is quite possibly like alone in seeking healing.
Yeah, it's true. And also, I think there is something to a professional relationship for this that is just really nice and clean. Because you can seek this from friends, you can. But when you are able to meet regularly with the sole intention of doing this work, and having somebody who, is aligned on your team and is there dedicated to doing this work, it's just so productive, and it's just a lovely thing. And I'm so glad that it's available, Yeah. I've had a lot of, I really can look back and, I wanted my business, and I had these, in my notes from life coaching, and I wanted 2 babies, here we are, second baby. Yeah. This is my third baby, but I wanted, 2 more babies. And so it's wonderful to be able to look back and be like, oh, well, we did those things.
Wow. Thank you for the chat. We'll turn the video off now and get back to our private conversation.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh yeah, I'm nap trapped.
Yeah, you can't.
Thank you.
For Alice.
Thanks for listening. If this spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. To discover which of the 5 petals is asking for your care right now, take the free 5 petals assessment at bridgidberkano.com/self-assessment. In closing, I'll leave you with a favorite phrase I learned in Circle. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's ours is ours. Until next time, be well.